It's time for the Phil Ferguson Show, only on Secular Media Network.
Well, hello everybody, this is Phil Ferguson, and you are listening to The Phil Ferguson Show. This is show number 174, and unlike a couple past shows, it's going to be a little long, so my apologies for those that have attention deficit issues. I know I am one of them and often can't handle something this long, but I think you're going to enjoy it. We've got a lot of things coming up. We're going to talk about sports, kinda. In the only way that I can talk about sports as a complete idiot. So we're going to talk about sports a little bit. We're going to talk about Warren Buffett for a few minutes before we get into all that. And then we have double interviews. We have Heather Henderson, who is on a couple of podcasts, including the Ardent Atheist. And that's what's scheduled. But at the very last minute, happened to arrange a nice long interview with Amanda Knief, who is an attorney, staff attorney for American Atheists, and we talked about a lot of the recent Supreme Court rulings, and it just is something that's very timely. It's stuff that's happened in the last couple of days, and so I felt compelled to fit that in here, so we will have a show that's a little bit over an hour. So hopefully you're going to be okay with that. Hang in there. It's going to be all right. The first thing we're going to talk about real quick in investing skeptically is Warren Buffett, and more importantly, Warren Buffett versus what do they call these? Hedge funds. Hedge funds are this tricksy way that you can invest, and the neat thing for the hedge fund managers is that they're allowed to charge you 2% a year plus 20% of the gain. So if the market goes up 10%, like it would in an average year, and there is no such thing as an average year, but let's pretend there is. If it goes up 10%, they get 20% of that, which is 2%, plus another 2%. They get 4%. So as you can very easily figure out, you've got to beat the market by a good 4% a year to compensate for this incredibly expensive fee. And back in 2008, Warren Buffett was talking with a person who works for Protégé Partners. And Protégé Partners is a fund of hedge funds. So what they do is they buy different hedge funds. There's probably 10,000 different hedge funds now, and I wouldn't put a dime in any of them. But Protégé Partners picks the 100 best hedge funds and makes a fund of all the hedge funds. And, of course, they charge you an additional fee on top of what the hedge fund charges you to pick the best hedge funds for you. So you're talking about probably close to 3 to 4% cost per year, plus the hedge fund keeping 20% of the growth. So you've got to beat all of that to beat the market. So Warren Buffett, to make his point, offered a bet, and they agreed to it, of $1 million that in 10 years the S&P 500 would beat their magical fund of hedge funds. And it was a $1 million bet, and Warren Buffett and Protégé Partners each put up $1 million in escrow. And, of course, actually that's made money because they decided to put that in the S&P 500. That's made money, and it's been going up, and we're now 8 out of 10 years into the bet. And so the question is, how is it going? I bet you want to know as a curious listener. You probably want to know how that's going. So here are the statistics as of the beginning of this calendar year, January 1st of 2016. And this, I got a lot of this from Fortune magazine. So if you Google Fortune, Buffett $1 million bet, maybe you can throw in the word hedge fund, things like that. So far in the last 8 years, as reported by Fortune, the S&P 500 is up a total of 65.67%. Not the best 8-year return, but, it's pretty good. The fund of funds is up 22%. S&P 5, 65%, almost 66%. and the fund of hedge funds is 22%. A loss of 43% in just 8 years. A loss of 5, maybe 6% a year, which not surprisingly is close to what you would expect. The 2% plus the 20, which makes another 2. It's 4 plus the fee to run the fund of funds is 1 or 2%. About 5 to 6%. Well, gosh, that's what they're underperforming the market. Not a big surprise. If you take out all of their fees, this fund of funds has still only made 49% versus the S&P 500 66%. So hedge funds as a whole, as a group, do not do better than the market. They don't even do close to the market. They underperform the market 2 to 3 to 4% a year, as the statistics would tend to indicate. So we have this bet. It's got 2 more years, and who knows what could happen. But even if the S&P 500 drops 50%, the hedge funds, of course, will go down because they're invested in things as well. So it's very unlikely the market goes down 50% and they lose nothing, which is the kind of situation that would have to happen for this to work. The other thing that I've gotten quite a few questions about in the last few days, particularly, is Brexit. Brexit, British exit from the European Union. And people ask me, what does that mean to their investments? Well, since I'm talking about Warren Buffett, I'm going to continue with that. One of his main philosophies is that market fluctuations don't change his long-term investment strategies. They don't change my long-term investment strategies. If anything, I'm now slightly more tempted to put a little more money into international and or emerging markets. If you don't already have too much there and you're more than 10 years out from retirement, it's something to think about. There's absolutely no way that the change, the vote by the populace of Great Britain to leave the European Union, which has not yet happened, and it will definitely cause a lot of turmoil, quite a bit in Europe, and definitely some in Great Britain, the United Kingdom, but it does not decrease the overall world value of the stock market by 10%. That's crazy. It's a dramatic overreaction, in my opinion, and I can be wrong. But thankfully, I don't make a whole lot of decisions about what happens in the short term. If anything, when the international markets all go down, it makes me just a teeny bit more interested in putting a teeny bit more money in there. So if you have 10% international, maybe you go to 12 or 14, or if you want to get crazy, 15. It's not something I'm going to make a big shift in, and it doesn't change the long-term strategy, because the long-term strategy is going to be 20, 30, 40 years for most people, even when you're getting close to retirement, because you want to protect some of your money, but the most of it is in the long term. And of course, I get lots of email, and thankfully my listeners are so kind to find stories that they think will relate to other listeners. In the past few weeks, I got a lot of people sent me information about the John Oliver segment on retirement savings and retirement investments. I think I got probably close to 30 different emails and Facebook messages and tweets that show that just maybe someone on John Oliver's staff has been listening to my show, because they covered almost all the same stuff that has been covered on my show. So I probably a little more funny about it, but that's all right. So I can fantasize in my own mind that someone from John Oliver's staff listens to my show. In the last couple of days, I've gotten quite a few stories about a guy named Mark Sanchez. Now, for those who are into sports ball thing, they're going to be stunned to find out that I have no idea who Mark Sanchez is, and quite frankly, I don't particularly care, but it's something that's related to the topics in the show. So apparently he and others were duped out of $30 million in what they're calling a Ponzi scheme, although I think they're being too nice. In this case, multiple athletes, sports ball type people, went to what apparently is an NFL player-approved financial advisor, which is curious. Maybe I need to figure out how that works. These guys just got tens of millions of dollars they can invest. And he approached them with an opportunity to buy stock in a ticket selling company. And it looks like that this is a company that sells stock. And I'm guessing this is very much like the story I did many years ago, or maybe a year ago on the show, about a friend of mine who bought a stock in a company. There's absolutely no necessity that a company actually try to make a profit or has even the possibility of making a profit. And as long as they disclose that it's high risk, they're kind of covered. And apparently Sanchez invested $100,000 in this stock, but he didn't know, because it was hidden from him, that his advisor, and I have my radio air quotes up, his advisor was actually paid by the company to sell the stock. Now, he got a $2 million finder fee for bringing all these clients. He also owned shares in the company and apparently was one of the largest fundraisers for the company. I can't do English today. But on top of that, there was a nice little trick here that the financial advisor was apparently forging money movement orders from Sanchez's bank account into this investment. And this is one of those things that I'm surprised by the number of people that talk to me and they say, Phil, I just want to set it up so that you can go into my bank and pull the money over and invest it. I don't understand that philosophy. I discourage it aggressively. And that is why I normally tell people that if you want to connect your bank to your investment accounts, that's cool, but make sure you are in control of pushing the money to your investments. Don't let somebody set it up so they can pull your money into the investments. You want to make sure that you have control over that. I like my bank's bill pay systems. A lot of banks are pretty good at this now. And you can set up where you put money in every week, every month, how often you want to do it, a one-time event. But you want to maintain control so that this doesn't happen to you where someone else can go into your bank and pull money over. A couple of the players said that they knew they could trust this guy, and you're going to love this. This is why it fits so well with the show, is that their financial advisor represented himself as a devout Christian and heavily involved with charitable causes. So you have this Christianity tie where that someone's a Christian automatically makes them a good person. So I obviously see that as a problem, but it's funny because I also think that, and this is weird for me to even say, but this is how my brain works. Do I fall victim? Is that the right word? Do you fall victim as the listener or someone who hires me of the exact same thing because we share philosophical concerns? So I want to make sure that while I market to the non-believers, the skeptics, the humanists, the atheists, the agnostics, the free thinkers, whatever words you want to use, that you don't hire me because of that. Maybe that's an extra perk that we share that. It's a nice thing that my business gives 10% of its revenue to support the movement. It's something that I find very important and I'm dedicated to, but I always want you to double check to make sure that you know what you're doing and take your time. And it's one of the basic fundamental things I tell people all the time. If someone puts time pressure on you that you have to hurry up and do things, you should be concerned. Most investments, almost no investment, just disappears if you don't buy in at the right moment. There's other investments. You hopefully are investing for a very long period of time. You don't have to do it right away. You can always wait a day, a week, or a month. It's not going to kill you. So just some things to think about in this fun little story about sports ball people getting ripped off for millions, tens of millions in a few cases of dollars that that they earned. They got a contract for it. They work hard for it. They put themselves and their bodies at risk, and someone tricked them, and the money has disappeared. So if you see any more stories like this, let me know, and we can share them on the show. And now we'll go into our next little segment. This is Phil Ferguson with Polaris Financial Planning, the home of science-based investing. I see people owning really bad investments all of the time. Many advisors are paid a commission by a big company to sell you something you may not need. It's kind of like church. They create fear, then they tell you what you want to hear, and then they take your money. What you want is an advisor that is paid only by you. That is a fee-only fiduciary advisor. Remember,